In this tutorial, we're going to learn to make the sweater on the mannequin behind me. The sweater is called Zasio, and if you'd like to get your own copy of the pattern and follow along, you can click the link in the video description below. The pattern's available on my website. This is a top-down raglan sweater, which means there's no seaming and you don't have to have very much of any sweater experience to be able to make this. Now, I designed this sweater, and the reason I love knitting my own hand-knit sweaters is because I'm tall, I have really long arms, and the only time I get the luxury of a big sleeve cuff like we've got here is when I knit them myself. Otherwise, I'm unrolling sleeves to get them to be long enough and I don't get cuff anymore. This sweater, whether you're tall or short, long or short arms, is easy to modify for length. I've knit this to be thigh length on myself, but really the length is easy to modify, and all of that will be available in the pattern. For top-down raglans, we start up here at the yoke and knit down, knitting the sleeves, the fronts, and the back all at once. Then we separate the sleeves and knit the body. We go back and knit the sleeves, and then we pick up stitches around for the short row collar that you can see is very voluminous. So to get started, we're going to cast on and get started with the raglan increases, which is what we'll talk about in the next video. To get started with a top-down raglan sweater, we're going to cast on right here at the neckline, reserving stitches for each of the fronts, the sleeves, and the back, and we knit those all together at once. You'll want to get your copy of the pattern and circle all the numbers that represent the size that you're knitting and cast on that number. You have the cast on row, and then you have a purl row where it's actually a setup row where you place your markers, and it's going to be different for each size, so follow the directions to place your markers. And now we're going to jump right into working the raglan increases. So let's take a look. Here I've got my cast on row, and then I worked the setup row, which was a wrong side purl row, and got my markers placed. And now I'm ready to work a right side row. Let me get some yarn released here. Now, every right side row is going to be pretty much the same. You're going to increase on either side of the marker every time you come up to a marker. You have 4 of them there. And then every 5th row, I believe it is, you'll need to check your pattern for this. We're going to work an increase here. Let me break this down a little bit. This is the right front, the right sleeve, the back, the left sleeve, and the left sleeve and the left front. That's what these markers are separating. And because this is kind of a low V-neck sweater, we need to increase here every now and then, as well as at the raglan increase points. So I'm going to show you the one row that has all of the increases in it. You start with knit 1, and then we're going to do a make 1 right, which means we pick up the bar between the 2 stitches and we put it up on the left needle from back to front. Then we knit we knit that stitch through the front loop. I don't like make 1 rights. This is hard. If you need a slower review of a make 1 right, I'll give you a link right here. Actually, the video is for both make 1 right and make 1 left. Okay, I got that done. That was hard to pull through. Now we're going to start the raglan increases. So we work to 1 stitch before the, 2 stitches before the marker, I'm sorry, and I'm going to do a KFB, which is a knit front back. It's a 1 stitch increase. You knit the stitch normally, but you leave this old stitch on the left needle. Then you knit the same stitch through the back loop, pull the old stitch off the left needle. You knit 1, you slip the marker, you knit 1, then you do another KFB. And if you need a slower review of the KFB, I'll give you a link right here. Now I'm going to knit up to the next marker, nothing fancy. Oops, I knit up to 2 stitches before the marker, like I did before. KFB, knit 1, slip the marker from the left needle to the right, knit 1, KFB. Let me mention one thing before I get to the next marker. The cast on number I have here is not as many stitches as you will have for your sweater. I am working with a little tiny sample here, just for the sake of demonstrating in the video, so I can get from one part to the next more quickly. So don't be surprised when you cast on and you have way more sleeve stitches, way more back stitches than I have here. And you'll see that I have more tiny samples coming up in this video. Okay, I'm going to do the same process around this marker. Knit up to 2 stitches before the marker, KFB. Knit 1, slip marker, knit 1, KFB. Knit up to 2 stitches before the last marker, KFB, knit 1, slip marker, knit 1, KFB. And then now this is, I'm going to work another make 1 stitch here for the front neckline edge, but this time I'm going to do a make 1 left. I much prefer this to make 1 right. You pick up the bar between 2 stitches and then you knit that stitch, whoops, I'm doing it backwards. Pick up the bar from front to back and then knit that stitch through the back loop. And again, my make 1 video will break that down much more slowly for you if you need it. So that was a right side row with all of the increases. Every wrong side row, every purl side row is just purling back without doing anything. So you'll follow the instructions for your pattern for how many of these rows you knit, how many increase rows you knit, and then you'll get to a point where you're ready to separate the sleeves. And we reserve the sleeves and then just knit the body. But before you get to that point, you can always slide all the stitches onto scrap yarn and actually try the sweater on. That's another beautiful thing about top-down raglans. You can try the sweater on and match up the underarm points to see if the sweater fits the way you want it to. Now clearly this is not a tight-fitting sweater, it's almost more of a coat. So you want to make sure that there's plenty of ease in the yoke area and the sleeves, so that you can layer it and wear things underneath it. So next up, we're going to talk about separating the sleeves and separating the sleeves and casting on additional stitches under the arms. So you follow the pattern for your size and you work the number of raglan increases the pattern tells you to. And like I mentioned before, top-down raglans give us a great opportunity to make sure the sweater fits when it's finished. You can slide all those stitches onto scrap yarn and try it on and make sure you love the way it fits before you separate the sleeves, which is what we're going to do now. And separating the sleeves means that your rows are going to get much shorter and the knitting is going to go much faster from here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Here's my tiny sample, and yours will look like this, but it will be bigger than this. This is a front, a sleeve, there's the back, and here's another front and a sleeve. I think it's awesome the way we can do this, all in one piece. Okay, so I'm going to, from this point on, no more raglan increases. You'll still have some front edge increases, just a few more to work, but no more raglan increases. I'm going to knit up to the first marker here. This is the most exciting row of the whole sweater, I think. No more increases. I'm going to knit right up to that marker and I'm going to remove the marker. Then I'm going to take this length of, well, let me show you this. This is smooth sock yarn and I always use it as scrap yarn when I'm doing something, mainly because it's fine and it's smooth, and it also happens to be a different color from the yarn I'm using for the sweater, which will make it easy to see. So I have a tapestry needle and my sock yarn. I'll thread that onto there, and I'm going to transfer all the sleeve stitches to this scrap yarn. Just like this. And I'll do this up to the next marker. Okay, I removed that second marker, and as a matter of precaution, I always tie an overhand knot right here, because I'd be really sad if the scrap yarn came out and the sleeve stitches started coming unraveled. Okay, now you can see, to knit the body, I'm going to go straight from the front to the back. No more sleeve. These are going to hang out on the scrap yarn until we're ready to come back to them and knit them. Okay. Before we get finish up this row, I want to cast on a few stitches here at the underarm. And to do that, I'm going to use the backwards loop cast on. And this is not the greatest cast on for the beginning of a project, but it's perfect for things like this where we only have one strand of yarn to work with. You grab the yarn in your left hand and put your thumb on the yarn like this, flip it around, and put that loop on the needle. I haven't finished sizing out this whole pattern yet, but I know for my size, of course, by the time the video comes out, all the sizes will be complete, but as of today, I'm not sure if all the sizes are going to have 4 cast on under the arm, but my size has 4, so that's what I'm doing. I cast on 4, my working yarn's here, and I'm ready to go. I just go straight to the stitches in the back and start knitting those. So you see how that goes? I'm going to continue knitting up to the next marker, and between the next 2 markers is the other sleeve. I'll remove the marker, slip all those stitches onto scrap yarn, remove the next marker, and then cast on 4 stitches, backwards loop cast on under the arm, and then finish up knitting the front. Then your rows are going to be much shorter. We're going to just leave the sleeves alone and just knit the sweater as long as you want it. Of course, again, you can slip the sweater to scrap yarn and try it on and make sure you like the length of it. I did that several times to make sure I liked the length. And then the very bottom of the sweater, we have our first encounter with seed stitch. And this seed stitch looks different than it will in the sweater. I'm using much bigger needles for this because I just want to demonstrate it. I want you to be able to see what I'm demonstrating. I just want to talk a little bit about getting really nice seed stitch and even seed stitch, and what the little trick I do to make sure that I get even seed stitch. Now, seed stitch is knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl all the way across, and then it's the opposite on the next row. We always knit the purls and purl the knits in seed stitch. And I just want to show you what I have going through my head when I'm doing seed stitch. I knit a stitch, I yarn forward, I purl a stitch, I yarn back, and I tug at that point. Now, the reason that I don't normally tug when I'm just doing straight knitting or purling, but the action of yarning forward and yarning back creates a little bit of drag between the stitches, and so that extra tug after 2 stitches does help it stay tidier. So I knit a stitch, I yarn forward and I purl a stitch, I yarn back and I tug. Knit, yarn forward, purl, yarn back, tug. And now I don't even think about it anymore. This is just how I work seed stitch. You see, it ends up being very tidy. Okay, next up we are going to, I had to check, we're going to knit the sleeves using the magic loop method. You finished up the body of the sweater, and now it's time to go back and knit the sleeves. You're getting very close to being finished now. And to do the sleeves, we're going to use the same long circular needle that you used for the rest of the sweater. Now you're welcome to use double pointed needles or a small circular needle. The pattern's the same regardless. But because I had you using 32-inch circulars for the sweater, I thought it would be nice to have you use the same needles for the sleeves so you don't have to go buy more needles, or just because this is a cool technique to learn and you might want to use this technique on other small circumference tubes. Let's go ahead and take a look. Here is the squatty little sample that I knit up. Your sweater should look like this, only a lot longer and not as squatty as this. And we have the sleeves hung out here on the scrap yarn. The first thing I'm going to do is to transfer these stitches onto the needle. And if your scrap yarn is fine and smooth, this should be a pretty easy thing to do. Every now and then you come upon a stitch that was split or something. Okay. There we go. We've got all of those on the needle. I'll just break the sock yarn and pull the sock yarn out. Ta-da! Now to do magic loop, you want to separate the stitches half and half or close to it. So I have the needles sticking out on this side, the armpit side. I'll find about the halfway point and pull some cord long there. Now the starting point for magic loop is this. Both of your needles facing to the right and the stitches kind of close to the tips. The first thing we do is pull the back cord long. Now this first round is going to be a little bit different because we need to pick up stitches under the arm right here. Remember we cast on 4 stitches here? We're going to pick up 4 stitches, and so I'm going to take the first 2 over here and the last 2 over here. If that doesn't make sense, don't worry, I'm going to show you. But we want the center of our round to be right here at the very center of the underarm area. So here's the very center. I'm going to pick up my first stitch here, put my needle in, grab my working yarn, and I fold the working yarn over, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Just make a loop, put that around the needle, and pull that through. I'm going to pick up my second stitch. I think it would go there, but I'm going to spread it out a little bit. I usually pick up my stitches, give it a tug, take a look, make sure it's not pulling too much. That looks really good. Now I'm just going to knit across the stitches on the right needle. The left needle, I mean. I'm going to knit up to the spot where I have the extra cord hanging, the halfway point. Okay, now I get here, I'm going to turn my work and get myself back into the starting position, meaning I need to pull the cord long over here to get myself in the starting position. And now that the yarn's attached, the real starting position is this. Both your needles facing to the right, the working yarn coming from the back needle. So pull the back needle long again and knit across. People who like magic loop oftentimes like it because it's less fiddly than using double pointed needles. Instead of readjusting 3 or 4 times every time you start a new needle with DPNs, you're just adjusting twice at the beginning and at the halfway point with magic loop. Okay, So to finish up this first round, I need to pick up 2 more stitches under the arm, and then that will be my beginning of my round. So I'm going to stab in there, pick one up, give it a tug. That's leaving a big hole. I don't like that. That's not any better. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, and then to help keep things straight, I have the tail end that I started with and my working yarn. Now that I've done that, I'm going to tie a knot with those 2. Tuck that tail end in the sleeve and get myself back into the magic loop starting position. Both needles facing to the right, working yarn coming from the back needle, pull the back needle long and knit across. Then you'll get to the cord and you'll turn your work and do the same thing again. That's really all you need to know for working magic loop. So you'll follow the pattern because you do have some decreases down the sleeve, and then at the end of the sleeve we have another seed stitch cuff. Next up, we're going to talk about picking up stitches for the collar and working the short rows. In this last part, we're going to talk about knitting the collar. I'm also going to tell you how to work the buttonhole, to show you how to do that. Let's dive right in. Your sample is going to look a bit different than mine at this point because you will have knit your sleeves. But here we are. You have, your sweater's also going to look a lot longer than this. We have the front edges, we have the spots where we left our scrap yarn markers, and we have the long V neckline. To pick up stitches for the collar, I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to start at the right bottom. Put my needle in there at the very edge. For the whole thing, we're going to be working in the first stitch there. But I like to make sure that this first one really matches up with the very bottom edge, so I stab it into the very corner, which is not really a good stitch. It's just how do I say this? It's maybe the slip knot I'm stabbing into right there. Okay, so I've picked up one. I go into the next stitch, wrap it and pull it through, into the next stitch, wrap it and pull it through. Okay, this is what I want to tell you about. Along this edge, all the way up to that was off camera, all the way up to very close to the raglan increase line, we're going to be picking up one for each stitch and then skipping one. So we're picking up 3 stitches over 4 rows. It's because stitches are wider than they are tall, and that's going to make it match up. So I'm still in the seed stitch border here, but I picked up 1, 2, 3, skip the next stitch. Pick up 1, 2, 3, skip the next one. And when I'm picking up both legs of the V, the very edge V. 1, 2, 3, skip 1. Skip. Skip. And I want to be able to see this marker, so I'm going to make sure it stays in front. Okay, you get the idea here. I'm going to work like that. Let me see how cool that looks. I'm going to work like that all the way up to this edge. And I still have this here from my cast on edge, and this is exactly where I want to start working differently. Because we're working and picking up alongside rows here, we're picking up 1, 2, 3, skip 1. But as soon as we get to the cast on edge, we're going to pick up 1 for 1, because we're actually picking up stitches at this point. The work is going this way. So you pick up 1 for 1 across the top of the sleeve, the back neckline, the other sleeve, and then 3 stitches, or just a couple stitches on the front, and then you go back into 1, 2, 3, skip 1. Now don't get too caught up on this, because if you're using the yarn I recommend, a wool or a wool blend, if this is all going to block out very nicely. If you do make a mistake and pick up too many stitches right here, it's not a big deal. Then you pick up 1, 2, 3, skip 1, all the way back down to this corner. Now this is where it gets interesting, because the way the collar works, we have a lot more stitches at the back of the neck than we do down the front button cuff area. So we're going to be working short rows, and this will all be clear in your pattern, but I just want to give you a rundown of how this works. We have these 2 little markers here. You're going to pick up all the way around and then go all the way back to this marker, and then you're going to do a wrap and turn, and then go all the way around to the second marker and then do a wrap and turn. And so at this point we're working short rows, which means we're not knitting to the end of the row each time. We're going to be working part way and turning around. And then you'll turn your work and go all the way back around to skip a stitch and wrap and turn the next stitch. All the way around, skip a stitch, wrap and turn the next stitch. And you follow your pattern to tell you how many times you do that. And as we do that, you build up a lot more stitches back here than you are down here. And it's going to give us the nice fold and luxurious feel back here, and then a much tidier front up here. Tidier, that's not the word I meant to use. Luxurious back here, and then a normal button band right here. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so that's how that's going to work, and you'll bind that off in pattern, meaning you're very good at working seed stitch at this point. You're going to bind off just like you did for the cuffs and the bottom of the sweater, meaning you maintain the seed stitch as you bind off. And now I want to show you about doing the buttonhole. I want to show you how to do the buttonhole, because buttonholes are so cool. We will pretend that this is the front band, and you'll follow the pattern to tell you where we need to put the buttonhole in. And so you're going to follow in seed stitch up to that point. And obviously on this sample I can just put the buttonhole wherever I want. And if you are knitting the sweater as written, you're going to want to bind off 4 stitches. The general rule is that you want to bind off enough stitches so that the buttonhole is a little bit smaller than the button. And 4 stitches in the gauge I give you for the sweater is the right size for an 1.5 inch size button. Let's go ahead and put the button here. So I followed the directions. I'm going to knit 2 and bind 1 off. That's 1 stitch bound off. 2, 3, 4. See that big gap there? Just bound off 4 stitches. Now I'll work to the end. Okay, and then on the next row is where we finish up the buttonhole. You work up to the gap, and we're going to use the backwards loop cast on just like we did at the underarm. Put your thumb on the yarn like this, flip it, put it on the needle. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to cast on as many stitches as you bound off, just a rule of thumb in case you are changing or using a different button size. And then just continue in seed stitch. And then you see here, it's still a little bit loosey-goosey looking because these backwards loop cast on stitches won't firm up until another row is knit across them. But you see here we have a nice buttonhole. Well, that's it. Those are the tricky parts of knitting this sweater. I hope you have fun making it. Good luck.
Wait.
What?
Show them the length of your arms.
My monster monkey arms?
Yeah, show them the length of your arms. Just stay right there and reach for this. Look how long those arms are.
Do you want it back?
Yeah.